Ready.
Mr. Walker? I'd like to call the Properties, Environment, and Economic Development Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCormick?
Here.
Mr. Beggs?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Erickson?
Here. Approval of the minutes of February 27, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second, Hardy.
Moved by Begg, second by Hardy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Would there be any changes to the agenda? Would anyone have any additions or corrections to our very short agenda? Hearing none, I'll look for approval of the agenda.
So moved, Walker.
Support.
Moved by Walker, supported by McCormick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Would there be any public comment? We've had a lot of brown and blue. Hearing no public comment. Mr. James Kelly, District Director, Michigan State University Extension.
Morning, James.
Good morning, everybody.
You got a lot of backup. That's called backup.
I'll move slowly.
And he's wearing green too.
Let's see, I believe you have been sent a copy of the actual annual report in your board packet, so I'm going to reference the other document that I handed out to you just at the very end, so don't pay too much attention to that strategic report right now. I was reflecting on my drive up. I think this is my 5th year presenting an annual report to this group, and as you know, I generally like to recognize the more formal partnership the county's had with Extension, which now is up to 108 years, so significant partnership. The annual report, as you've seen, is pretty brief. It highlights some very specific data. I do it in that format because I hope that the quarterly reports that I send you that tell a little bit more of the background stories of our programming kind of fills in some of the gaps throughout the year. So at this moment, I can just provide kind of an overall summary of some of our activities. I think you're also receiving a monthly shiny newsletter from what's called Report to Our Partners. I think each of you gets that as well, which is kind of a more statewide overview of some of the efforts of Extension. So hoping that you're feeling well communicated with in terms of Extension activities, and if not, do let me know. In regards to the presentation, I'm just going to highlight a few things. Of course, I do like to recognize our local staff, and on the front page, page 1 of that annual report, you have a list of our current staff. So I'm going to just run down and provide a very quick commentary. Lisa Fleury's been now with us for 2 or 3 years in terms of community nutrition. We have a report from her in terms of her reach, which I'll review in a moment. Riley Ford is a newer staff in Oceana County. She's actually connected to our fruit educator. Our fruit educator works out of the Griswold Street office, but also is connected, of course, to the research station. So Riley is a full-time research assistant helping with our ag research up on the research station. Dr. Emily Labley is our tree fruit educator. Some of you met Emily the other night at the Ag Banquet. She has been an outstanding addition to our staff as of about 3 or 4 years ago. Jenny Payne. So Jenny Payne technically is a new name on this report as of 9 months ago. I think it was about June, July last year that Jenny came up into the county to take over the 4-H program. So we'll discuss 4-H in a moment. Amber is our 4-H admin support person. She is also the one who's providing some support to Curtis as part of the Right Place and Economic Development initiatives in the county. Kathy Walicki is year 33 or 4 or something. I never get it right, so I generally don't say it. But Kathy, of course, is the backbone of the local office. And Ben Whirling has also been with us now for about 6 years as our vegetable educator. So onto some data. Page 2 gives kind of some overall data, and the overall impact number, 4,310 was the total reach of our activity in Oceana County. So that's combining people who attended our programs, people who were part of one-on-one consultations, office visits, stopping in to pick up soil tests. That's kind of the number of folks that we've directly supported, influenced, helped in some way. There were about 1,200 participants from the county attending actual programs, so we have still a combination of in-person programs and virtual programs we deliver. Just this week, 2 days ago, I was up at the research station for the spring hort meeting, which is our tree fruit focused meeting. We had about 70 growers up there to hear the latest research from campus, learn a little bit about the latest equipment. 2 weeks ago, I was at the asparagus spring meeting, which is held traditionally down in New Era. We had about 130 asparagus growers down there, again, for the day, full day of programming. Part of their motivation, beyond getting the information from Extension, they do get some credits for their pesticide certification, which is of course important in their operation. So dual purpose in meeting the needs of our local growers. So Oceana folks attended actually 244 different programs. In previous versions of this report, I've listed some of the event names that some of the Oceana folks are interested in, and I always found that interesting just because it's really diverse. It's from hops production up north to things out on the east side of the state, and just a really diverse list of programming that Oceana County residents are taking advantage of. 38 is the number of community coalitions and partnerships, so we are serious about being a team player in terms of serving Oceana County and looking to kind of supplement and support other agencies in whatever way we can. So to have 38 recognized partnerships and coalitions is a good effort for Extension. Just a quick note too, the communications outreach, 75,000 folks or contacts through our social media, web activity, newsletter, handouts. It's a significant number. It compares a little higher than some of my other counties, the 5 counties that I support. So I feel like we're doing a good job in reaching folks through our social media, which is primarily Facebook at this point. Moving on to page 3, which is more of a focus on our youth programming and the 4-H. So Jenny Payne came up, as I mentioned, I think around July of last year, during our transition of 4-H program coordinator leadership. Jenny has done an outstanding job in the tail end of 2024 and continues to do that in 2025. A local resident who has strong connections, and through that transition, of course, it takes a little while to kind of see that there's usually a little dip in numbers, and then things hopefully bounce back and go beyond from that point. We're already seeing the evidence that that's going to happen for Jenny, partially because of the number of volunteers. When she came up, we were around 60 or so volunteers. We now have 94 4-H volunteers. So she has had an amazing run of successfully recruiting adults to be involved in our programming. And generally, if you have the volunteers supporting the programming, then the youth will follow. So I'm very excited to see where these numbers go over the course of this year. I've highlighted some of the stories, but I'm not going to read through them for you because I'm sure you've done that. So 4-H in general is in a good state at the moment. A healthy number of clubs. We have lots of youth involved, and I expect that number to continue to grow. Turning on to page 4, again, a quick highlight of our community health and nutrition program. So 221 participants in Oceana County. And the health and nutrition programming ranges from working with Great Start to working with senior centers to working with schools. Lisa has done well in building those connections, and I've shared some of the stories in terms of her activity, and also highlighted the work of our disease prevention educator. So she is someone who technically works out of Muskegon County, but has really developed some strong connections with some of the Oceana County nonprofits who are delivering health and nutrition type programming. Jump in if you have questions, otherwise I'll keep rambling on for a minute and then take some more questions at the end. Page 5, Joel.
Your second page, overall impact.
Yep.
At the top there, 4310. Soil tests, tip line calls. What does tip line calls mean?
Now you mention it, maybe that's not the right word. You could have just exposed one of my errors. We have a helpline. It's called Call Extension. There's a Master Gardener line as well. Ask Extension. love it when Gary's here to correct me. It's good. But
He's here all the time.
we actually have a couple of different 800 numbers that we can provide to community members to submit various questions. Some of them horticulture focused. We have a food safety hotline, so it should probably have read hotline instead of tip line
So give me an example
of
that
a
call.
phone call to
Yeah.
Gary. So Gary actually has staffed the hotline for many, many years down in Kent County, but I might call and say, man, I'm having trouble with this patch of my grass that's not growing underneath this specific tree, and I'm wondering if you can tell me how to fix that. And Gary's gonna ask what tree it is and
Okay.
tell you how to fix the soil or what might be a remedy to that
Okay,
situation.
I see what you're saying.
Yep. It's
Carry
just,
on.
just another general resource. The agriculture, so I'm on page 5 now. Again, I don't need to tell you how important agriculture is to Oceana County. Having the research station in the county now has certainly kind of amplified our ability to do localized research and help the local farm communities. So Emily Labley, our tree fruit educator, and Ben Whirling, our primary extension folks who work with that facility. Again, that facility is locally owned. MSU just manages that operation and works with the local ownership in that respect. It was nice, of course, for those who were able to be at the Ag Banquet last week to see recognition of Earl and Linda Peterson and their investment in local ag and that facility. It's truly an asset to Oceana County. We will continue to have ongoing research at that station and continue to expand the scope of that. So now that we have an irrigation specialist who's sitting in Mason County, we look to bring some more irrigation focused research to that property as well. And I think the final page I have used just to highlight that when you support extension, you're not supporting just the folks sitting in Oceana County, you are drawing on other expertise coming into the county. So through the zoning and planning needs of the county, we've had Mary Riley, who sits in the district to the north, who's come down and done some training. There's some more training scheduled in the coming month or two to talk with local elected officials to make sure they're up to date on their practices. And community vitality is another area that we brought in other folks to come in and help with just local governance issues. The last little highlight at the bottom of the page is one which I'd like to just touch on really quickly. Some of you know Clarence Rudat. Clarence is what we call a product center innovation specialist. Basically, he works with entrepreneurs to make sure that they have support in kind of developing their products, taking their product to the next level in terms of whether it's processing, packaging, whatever support he may be able to supply. So we got some just little stats, or a few stats related to Oceana County, and he worked with 6 clients last year who had combined sales of about $275,000. He put in about 106 hours of consulting and research support as part of his job. He works closely with the Right Place. Again, there's a little bit of overlap technically in some of the services, but we are not looking to capture that side of things. We're looking to kind of supplement whatever support is needed in that area. So it's a nice little piece that adds on to the starting blocks work in Oceana County. Beyond that, I do like to recognize, in giving the annual report, the role of Paul Erickson sitting on our District Extension Council. So he's representing you as commissioners in a quarterly meeting. And it's important that we have input from our local commissioners in terms of our operation. We have a community member, America Estrada, who still shows up and again is actively involved in those meetings, which I very much appreciate. Ultimately, our success comes from engagement with the community, so that's kind of my tagline. We'll only be as successful as we are known by the local community and engaged with by the local community. So if you are working with any groups that are struggling on any process, even if it's not ag-related, I've had some weird calls over my 5 years looking for support from Extension, and sometimes they have led me outside of the world of Extension into the bigger university world to kind of provide resources, and that's great. We're still the window into the university, so I encourage you to keep that in mind if you're working with folks who are struggling. The strategic plan, I'm just going to touch on very basically, so that's a nice glossy bound handout I gave you. 2024 Extension spent a lot of time with community engagement, stakeholder engagement in developing our strategic plan. So that is the output of that engagement. At your leisure, do take a look at that. I am pleased to share that as an organization that we are now entering the next phase, which is actually building the committees that are going to work on those defined initiatives that we're focused on. So I hate to say, and I'm sure some of you can relate, that I have worked for other organizations where a strategic plan is developed and sits on the shelf and looks great, but it doesn't really drive much. That's not the case with MSU and Extension. That we have very specific steps we're following to make sure that that will produce some kind of measurable outputs. So with that, I'll slow down and pause for minutes. Questions, comments?
If I may?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, I've actually had occasion to talk with Clarence and discuss some issues with him. Great feedback from the product center. They do a fantastic job, and I just want to pass that along. I don't care if it's mixtures or questions or answers or packaging or whatever. It's really a great service. I'm not sure a lot of people know about it.
I was just going to say, pass that on to your peers who are in that
Yeah.
small business world, because it is underutilized,
Yeah.
and he is so well connected to
Yeah.
so many resources.
Yeah, but it's a great service, I'll just say that.
I have a question for you. Do you have any master gardeners that do any type of volunteer work, flower beds, that kind of stuff that
Yes.
could be utilized?
So the Master Gardener program is still in existence. It's gone through a little bit of a name change in terms of our delivery of the training, but we still have an organized group, of which Gary McKean can come up as one of our leading folks in West Michigan. We don't have a strong structure in District 5 in terms of having a dedicated staff to serve that horticultural need, but in terms of residential gardens. But Gary often is the person I will call when we get requests. There are still volunteer hours required, as far as I know, Gary, in terms to maintain certification. We now offer folks an opportunity to go through that Master Gardener program without I'll say the burden, but without the requirement to do those volunteer hours if they just want to kind of pick up that knowledge. So yeah, if you have groups that are looking to benefit from some highly trained gardeners being involved in project design, definitely reach out to me. We can explore what resources we can spread that way.
Gary McKean.
Okay, thank you.
I'll tell you, Gary's a little thinly stretched. You might be surprised to hear that, but
What I'm thinking isn't a huge project, just upgrading.
Would there be any other questions for Mr. Kelly? Hearing none, thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you, James.
Department head reports.
Morning.
Good morning, Gary.
Joel, I have this for you. These are bookmarks with the identification. There's a phone number on the back of the hotline, and this is one of the brochures that we use. I did a program last night. This is not why I'm here talking today. I did a program last night for the Shelby Library. We had 13 people for an hour on a smart gardening program, very well received. So be happy to talk to you about the Master Gardener program and what we can offer and not offer. So right now we have 3 Master Gardeners in the county, myself and Patty Davidson and Miss Bingston up in Meltwater. So we can certainly talk. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
April 24th, Planning Commission, we have our Mary Riley from MSU Extension is going to be offering a program at the County Services Building at 6:30, the Open Meetings Act of Michigan. Everyone's invited. We have not seen how many have signed up yet, but hopefully we'll have a full house, which is about 45, which we've had in the past. At our recent Planning Commission meeting, Dave Spitler was elected to be on the Brownfield Board. He's the representative from the Planning Commission. brownfield. So that's a position that's always very important to the county, and Dave has just a great background in housing and all the things that he does. On parks, we're waiting for the frost laws to come off so our contractor can finally get the darn bridge in at the fishing platform at Marshfield Dam. So I did talk to Mark Timmer last week, and he said he thought maybe the first week of April. We're not there yet. The ground's still pretty frozen at this point. We've got 3 concrete contractors that will be bidding. 2 have bid already. I have the bids for sidewalks out at Cedar Point, well within what we expected. And I have 1 bid on asphalting, and I talked to the other contractor. I've not seen his bid yet, so we'll have 2 asphalt contractors bidding on 3 different park projects, and we'll have 3 concrete contractors bidding on the 1 project out at Cedar Point. So it's coming along pretty well, and we're all anxious to get out and do some programs. Programming has started already out at that park out by Gales.
Doolittle. Doolittle.
Yeah, I'm stretched too thin. Out of Doolittle with the Lehigh Naturalists, so that program has started off. They have, I think, 23 kids registered this year, which is amazing. It just continues to grow and fill up and expand our ability to have our parks. It's really a shining example to all of the folks that come to those meetings and those programs. So that's the short version.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
With all you.
Any public comment? Hearing no public comment, we'll adjourn the Properties, Environment, and Economic Development Committee meeting.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Finance and Administration Committee. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. McCormick?
Here.
Mr. Beggs?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here. I'd ask for approval of the meeting minutes from March 31st, 2025.
So moved, Walker.
Support.
Moved by Walker, supported by Joel. McCormick, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carried. Are there any changes to the current agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Erickson.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Walker. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Is there any public comment at this time for Finance and Administration Committee? Hearing none, we'll move on. Under Sheriff, Mr. Schiller, flock safety camera presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Today we're just coming to you to give you an overview of flock safety. I know some of you have heard pieces of it and discussed in the last month or so. And today we have Miss Gina on the Sue today to give a presentation and an overview of what flock safety is and what the proposal is. And I guess it's important to know at the front end of this conversation that this is really a request to proceed with the trial, to gather some data and to see if there's value in moving forward. Flock is obviously they're confident in their product and they're confident in the results, and at the end they would obviously like to see a partnership with Oceana County in general. Again, there's no cost to the county. There's no commitment on anybody's behalf, whether it's the county or any of the municipalities that have shown interest. And at the end of the project, Prove It, which is the tag name for the trial, if no one wants to continue with it, it's okay. There's not a commitment. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's important for me to communicate that this is an an initiative that 4,000 other communities across the country are seeing good results from, and they're using this tool effectively. This project, this idea, this desire to try and see what this trial will do for us. The intention is not by any means to create division between the sheriff's office and the board, or the board amongst board members. This is not a hill worth dying on for me, frankly, and this is a positive thing, and I just want to share that. It's important I think for me to share that this is a good thing. Conversation is good, but I'm not intending to cause strife and grief.
She has not logged on yet.
She hasn't.
No.
What time did we give her?
I said between 10:15 and 10:30.
Okay. I'd say we're pretty close to 10:30.
I got a question. Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
Sounds like, I think you've been talking to townships. Have there been any townships that have signed on saying they're interested and willing to fund, more than this trial?
Sure. We, being the sheriff's office, we have not gone individually to townships or municipalities specifically saying, can we do this? My, thought at this point is we'd like to see what the trial will do. So Mr. Raffaelli had taken some time at the front end of this project to negotiate some better terms for us, frankly. He has that ability, and he negotiated us an extra 30 days. Typically they do a 60-day project prove it. He negotiated 90 days with no cost for the project itself. And then we also negotiated it to be during our summer months, which I think would be helpful to do it, in June, July, and August versus, January, February, March. So they also, Mr. Raffaelli did get a copy of the contract that was proposed and had their legal team review it on our behalf, just making sure that there wasn't anything in there that no gotchas in there. So they did review that and said that it was okay. So yeah, we have not. Now I will say this: Chief Hartram's in the room. Chief Hartram has met with Pentwater Township and the village, and Chief Hartram is an advocate for it. Obviously, Chief Salazar and Rossler are here as well. They're interested in seeing what possibilities we can do with this project. But Chief Hartram has met with Pentwater Township, and I know they're interested in it, and so is the village of Pentwater. So there she is.
Hi, Gina.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. I apologize for my tardiness. I had another call that ran late, but appreciate you all taking the opportunity to allow us to present to everyone. Just wanted to double tap on one particular area just to inform everyone. Pentwater PD has chosen to move forward with their PPI. We were able to execute on that contract last week, so they will be starting off with their kickoff call, I believe, this week. And then, of course, we are going to be moving forward with the same exact terms that we put in place for Oceana in the event you guys choose to move forward. That said, we have agreed that we would provide you all with a 90-day project prove it, basically allowing you all a risk-free trial to trial out our system, all of our cameras, and then more importantly, capture all of the metrics and success that you guys don't necessarily have visibility into today. So that said, it would be a 90-day project prove it. We have it set up with net 45-day terms. Once the trial period has concluded, you all will basically be able to decide throughout the entire project prove it of all of the different cameras, ultimately what you all want to keep within the contract. Anything you all choose to remove from the contract, basically we'll come back out, uninstall it, and of course part ways, there's no penalty. That said, you all would have net 45 days once the trial period concludes, and you ultimately decide what you all would like to keep. We also included additional special terms where you all will have basically 60 days to dispute any invoice that you receive, which was requested by your guys' leadership team. And then of course we have it listed as a 12-month contract with a 12-month renewal term. You all will be provided a 45 to 60 day window upon renewal to decide whether or not you choose to extend for another year or future years to come. So I'll pause there to see if you guys have any questions so far.
I have a question for you. It sounds as though you are going to be billing each one of the individual municipalities or townships that agree to go with the system. Is that correct?
That will be based on everyone's preference. So in most cases with Oceana County, if Oceana personally wants to have specific cameras within their county that they maintain ownership, we would break that PPI and those cameras would go under Oceana's contract. There are any other agencies that would like to do the same. Obviously, we would just convert those cameras to those specific agencies where they become the ultimate network owner. But regardless, the whole benefit of Flock is the ability to cross-functionally collaborate throughout jurisdictions, throughout the county and the state. So regardless, it's going to be more of your guys' preference, which is why we've enabled that 90-day window. So under Sheriff, I can work with him and his team to better understand who all is going to want these separated in their own individual contracts, or if it's going to fall under Oceana County and these agencies are just going to be sending you the funds to ultimately continue the purchase with us. Did that answer your question?
The first part of it.
So as we've discussed it amongst the Sheriff's Office and the chiefs, the idea is that even with Pentwater PD is that we would have them all under one umbrella. And I guess that's really why I'm coming to, we're coming to you, being the board. We're asking if the county would be willing to be the fiduciary on this, and so it's all under one system. And then if municipalities desire to participate, then we would just invoice them out annually, and it would be a cash in, cash out system, just to make it clean.
Who gets the information then if Pentwater decides to do a separate contract with Flock? Does that information come through dispatch or?
So if everybody does their own,
I can speak to that. So if everybody does, for what we're doing, we just give Oceana County, the cameras in Oceana County, access to ours, and it's a click of a button, is basically what they're saying, to allow them to have access. So everything will be shared. Ours is a little different because our orientation is a little bit different. So we're focusing on parks, recreation, school, and our critical infrastructure. So our cameras are, that's their focus, as opposed to a broader focus like you've seen in the county, where they're looking at traffic routes, flow, freeways, major secondary roads, that
Thank you. So.
Is this surveillance without a warrant?
Ms. Gina, can you answer that question?
I didn't hear it, I'm sorry.
Mr. Michelson asked is this surveillance without a warrant?
Surveillance without a warrant. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Well, are you tracking people's whereabouts? They're coming and going without a warrant being issued to do that?
No, sir. So basically the way that the license plate reader technology works is anywhere that you would have a camera, as you can imagine, they're on public roadways. We are focused on the back license plate tag. So at the moment that it passes one of our Flock cameras, that license plate read is captured, and then basically it's scanned against NCIC and all of the back-end databases to uncover if this vehicle is wanted as a stolen vehicle, is associated with any open warrants or felony arrests. And more importantly, it would notify your officers immediately, real time, in the event there was a hot alert for a stolen vehicle or an open burglary case or whatever the crime may be. And then as soon as it passes that camera, it notifies the officers real time with the whereabouts and the tag picture of that vehicle as soon as it passes the block camera. We do not invade privacy. We also do not provide facial recognition. Again, we are truly just focused on the license plate readers themselves, knowing that all of these vehicles are traveling on public roadways. Did that answer your question, sir?
Not exactly, but I hear what you're saying.
And as of right now, just to provide additional reassurance, and I'm sure you guys may be able to take a look at additional context, we do not currently have any lawsuits or any pending investigations as it relates to privacy, the Fourth Amendment, and any legislation concerns within the state of Michigan.
Are there any controls where one of your officers decides that he wants to track where his ex-girlfriend is going and what a boyfriend is doing?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So there is an audit trail, and there is a public portal of transparency. Is that right, Gina?
You got it. The data transparency portal that you or your community would have access to as well.
So you're saying you're gonna install these cameras and then the municipality or whoever has it decides, no, that's not for me.
Sure.
You're taking them out, there's no charge.
Yes.
What about the cost for the electrical, traffic control, bucket truck,
So
to get them installed?
Yeah, the installation is completely on Flock. I went into the conversation prior to Gina entering the conversation with them, and I was open and honest, and I said, hey, we might come to the end of this and, not have any. We might have 2 or 4 or 6. It might be a very low number. And I would hate for you to go to all this trouble installing all these cameras for you to, and they said, no, don't worry about it. They said, stop. This is not a concern. This is what we do. This is a part of the process. But I was very open that I would hate for them to have the wrong assumption or the wrong idea going into this, that we were going to, buy 40 of these suckers and they'd be out. They were very reassuring that this is a part of the learning process and the data collection to prove, hey, this is the value to you.
But they were also pretty confident with the product.
Very, very confident with the product. Yeah.
What I read in the agreement was that no electrical was included.
So there is no electrical needed. They're all done through solar.
Oh.
So yeah. So in terms of electrical connections or any of that, it's all solar and battery power. So there's really it's a standalone pole that they come in and install.
I see.
Yeah.
Craig?
Yes, Mr. Walker.
Under Shelley, do these get installed on utility poles or where do they go?
So they can go on existing infrastructure or existing utility poles if they're available, if that's what the municipality chooses.
Well, the reason I ask that is because Consumers Power is very, very touchy about what people put on their poles.
Miss Gina, can you speak to that?
I sure can. So Consumers Energy, as you can imagine, is one of the largest energy companies within the state of Michigan. Know that in the past we've actually had a master attachment agreement with Consumers Energy. That said, things have sort of shifted a bit with their partnership. So I believe based on the current deployment, after reviewing that with Under Sheriff and his team, ultimately we are going to obviously try to shoot for pre-existing infrastructure where we have no issues gaining the permissions to install on that property. But that said, we take care of all of the installation, permitting, maintenance, and of course, the install itself. So that said, I don't anticipate too many challenges. However, we will avoid anything that's not technically approved. As you guys can imagine, knowing that we work with the state of Michigan, we do also have an agreement with the Department of Transportation. So in the event that we are installing on DOT right-of-ways or state highways, interstates, you name it, we do have the proper permissions in place. Permitting does take a little bit longer with the DOT, as you can imagine. So in most cases, if we are shooting for DOT right-of-ways, that install time can range anywhere between 4 to 6 months. If we shoot for private property or pre-existing infrastructure where we are allowed to install our hardware, that usually cuts us down to maybe 1 to 2 months of that.
Thank you.
I also wanted to just double tap, and I know Undersheriff covered this, but someone did raise the question of, if there is an officer that's stalking his girlfriend and wants to track her down. I know Undersheriff did touch this, but yes, there is an audit trail. You will notice that as they log into the system, anytime they are trying to search, they will be required to log in with their badge number. So Undersheriff and his team will be able to pull those audit results to identify any unwarranted searches and of course be able to course correct or deactivate access. But I just wanted to double down on the fact that we get that question a lot, but we do have the preventive measures in place to ensure that everything is audited and we're not looking at any type of funny business there.
Mr. Walker.
When there is a hit on a license plate, exactly where does that information get disseminated to? Does it go to the sheriff's department? Does it go to the local department? Who does it go to? And how is it handled from there?
Sure, absolutely. I can take this one. So basically the way it would work is we are all about the shared access, right? We do over 1 billion plate reads per month. That said, as soon as a hit comes in, depending on what camera it is, let's say if we're going through with this Oceana PPI deployment, Oceana's team, then every single user on the platform will receive a real-time alert the minute that hit is captured on one of our Falcons. Whoever is sharing access, meaning all of the local agencies that fall within that county, they too would also receive an alert as long as the sharing permissions are set up that way. In addition to that, you will also notice that, again, any customers that we have in the state of Michigan, if they are sharing access with Oceana and any of the local agencies, they too will also receive an alert. And the main reason for that is because we all know that crime does not stay within jurisdictional borders and can travel across different lines. We want to be able to respond as fast as possible, and that's where you'll see agencies working with each other when they pick up a hit on one of their cameras within their city. Does that make sense, or did that answer your question?
That answers it. Thank you.
Oftentimes as well, Mr. Walker, they will give access to their dispatch center. So their dispatch center will be a user, and then the dispatch center will also get that information in real time.
Yes. Does Flock have any current research and development or programs for like facial recognition type improvements to the system?
That's a touchy subject, and I say that because, as you can imagine, anytime we talk about facial recognition, there's that immediate action of they're spying on me, there's Big Brother mentality. So I can say with confidence as of today, we are not looking to specialize in facial recognition. We are truly focused on vehicles themselves, any unique vehicle identifiers. And I do know that we obviously offer things like drones as a first responder, mobile security trailers, and even live video. But again, we are trying to stay out of the weird kind of white space where we can get lumped in with more of that Big Brother privacy concern. So as of right now, we do not have any plans today to include any facial recognition with our platform. Now, I will say there are going to be newer features like Nova and Freeform that are being released later this year towards the end of Q4. Freeform will include things where you are able to search, looking for a red pickup truck with a trailer on the back, looking for a gentleman in a red hat that was driving a white pickup truck or a red motorcycle. Those would help you automatically pull individual images for those specific search results using AI. But again, what you didn't hear was any type of specific facial recognition or identifying specific people or suspects. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, follow-up question to that. So it sounds like it will hit on, say, a known license plate of a felony warrant or whatever. But then you touched on, say there's a vehicle of interest. So that's also, sounds like an upcoming feature of vehicle of interest, whether it's a license plate capture involved in a hit and run. But there's not an outstanding warrant, there's not an outstanding lien entry on that's a possibility to cast the net, so to speak, and then get alerts if that vehicle pops up.
You got it. And I saw Under Sheriff kind of nodding his head as well. So say, for instance, you do have a vehicle of interest. It is potentially associated with a case. That officer would create a hot list for that specific vehicle of interest. They have to enter in why it's a vehicle of interest, why it's being captured within this hot list. And then, of course, if it is captured on any camera, it will provide that real-time alert.
Okay.
But again, if you guys happen to see, it was a white Caucasian, approximately 6'2", with a beard, those are things that we're not going to be able to report on.
Okay.
So that's the investigatory value in this, really. Let's just be honest. The number of stolen cars in Oceana County and the number of carjackings here, it's pretty low. I'm really not. There's not tremendous value for us here. The value in it is, we know that this hit and run involved a gray F-150 that had a toolbox in the back, or we know that there was a suspicious car out by the lakeshore, and we don't know who it was, but we had 7 B&Es out in Bonona, and that car was seen at 3 a.m. Well, that's the true value there, because now we're able to at least develop a lead in a potential suspect to a crime. I mean, that's the true value in this whole thing. Stolen cars, whatever. If we were somewhere else, maybe, but
Lost, missing, Alzheimer's.
sure, yeah. So as the sheriff was alluding, a lost person, a missing person, an older person with dementia or Alzheimer's, when they turn up missing, when they go for an afternoon ride and nobody knows where they're at, and they don't have their cell phone, and they took their Apple Watch that the grandkids gave them off, so now we're not able to track them at all. It's another tool to be able to try and track a person like that down. At least, maybe we don't know their exact location, but if they went through M20 and Oceana Drive and they were headed eastbound, well, at least we know, hey, this is the direction they were headed, versus we have no idea.
But could we get hits on other counties' cameras?
Yes,
If they
absolutely.
cross the bridge.
So if we partner with Flock and we put and we have one of our own who leaves the house and is missing, we can put their vehicle and their plate number in the system, and no matter where they go, if they go up to Traverse City, we'll get a hit. If they go to Muskegon, we'll get a hit. If they go to Home Depot. If they go to Lowe's in Ludington, we'll get a hit. There are endless opportunities for even something that isn't not even criminal in nature, things like that would be valuable.
Well, I also know, I was in Florida and there was an Amber Alert that came out, and I think it came out of the Miami area, and within 3 or 4 hours, they picked the car up in Tampa. And it came through the license plate reader, and everybody was recovered, and it was fine, and it was like a 12-year-old girl.
Sure.
Was abducted. So.
One more follow-up question. So what I'm hearing is one of these alerts will essentially be on the lookout. It's not if probable cause is still required to stop a vehicle.
Yep. All the same things would still apply. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just essentially be on the lookout. This vehicle is spotted in this area.
It's just another tool.
So there has to be some kind of event that generates law enforcement interest that prompts us to tap into the system. It's not just somebody sitting at a desk watching the cars go by and saying, well, that one looks suspicious or whatever. It's just another investigative tool in the technology category, much like our in our video systems that we use for monitoring traffic stops or officers' actions.
They call it force multiplier.
Exactly.
So, we looked at it and thought, what's the value of it to us? Part of the value is that we're gonna have cameras around our school. So when we do our behavioral threat assessments, we have an active case going, and we know that we have an individual that represents a threat to the school. We can create a database for that, so if that car is coming towards the school, boom, our SRO is gonna get a hit in the school, that, hey, this guy's in that parking lot for that kind of thing. Okay, the other thing for us is, obviously, we are not, as many in this room are not full-time agencies. So for us to have an officer on duty 24/7, when you look at these cameras, that we're gonna have eyes on our community 24/7. So when you convert that to a monetary expense, we're gonna save conservatively about $70,000 just in this trial period. Now, when you pump that out to a countywide system, okay, you easily multiply that 4 times by the amount of value you're gonna get to it. And finally, we don't know what we don't know. We have a major trunk line that comes through the county. And, surprisingly enough, that trunk line is used to move illegal drugs and human trafficking and all kinds of things that, frankly, we probably don't know about. This is gonna give us an opportunity, or other people an opportunity to say, hey, we're seeing XYZ come up the freeway, and we're looking for them because the traffic, if you're human trafficking in Traverse City, we can get a stop on it, we can get a stop on a drug run. And those are the kind of unexpected things that you don't think about. Kidnappings, the school, the other things, the critical infrastructure is always a problem. That's where we're looking at the benefit. So.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes, Mr. Walker.
Under Sheriff Scheller, I think if there are no more questions for our guest, she probably has a lot of other things to do. And if we're gonna talk about local things here, we can probably do that, unless anybody has any questions for her.
No.
Any more questions?
I see you're from Atlanta, Georgia. Where are your servers?
So we work with AWS, and most of our data is within the cloud. And as you can imagine, we cover all of the compliance, knowing that 80% of our revenue comes from law enforcement agencies. But yes, we are headquartered in Atlanta. We do have a couple of branch satellite offices as well, scattered throughout the US. If you need to know exactly where the data centers are, I'm happy to try to provide that from our IT and security department. But majority of our data is going to live within the cloud. Therefore, it's also in terms of data retention for your agencies themselves, like Undersheriff. All of the data will be his and lives within his system for 30 days. If he chooses to download or extend it from there, again, it's their data. Did that answer your question though, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Understood. Well, perfect. Well, we really appreciate the opportunity to present with you all. Just to recap again, our overall mission and overall value that we provide to the state of Michigan and the law enforcement agencies, community safety, and of course our commercial businesses is to reduce overall crime, solve cases faster, maximize officer efficiency, and then more importantly, improve officer and public safety. Do truly hope you all can see the value, and of course, if there are any other questions or anything you should need afterwards, please, by all means, do not hesitate to reach out. But I pray you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Bye.
I think her last name is Ryan. Is that right?
I can tell you in just a second. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Craig?
Have you looked at any other systems?
There's really none out there. This is their thing. There are other companies, Motorola, Avigilon. They have LPR technology. Verkada, the camera system that we're in the middle of installing in the building, they have LPR technology, but it's not it's not what they do. What Flock does, that's, you know, she alluded to it, their mission is vehicle and LPR technology. A lot of these other companies, specifically Verkada and Motorola Vigilon, they're really focusing a ton of attention on the AI and analytics of the cameras, really with more facial recognition and some of those other features. So Flock is now Axon, the same company that makes Taser. They have LPR technology as well. So they have LPR dash cams, so it's Motorola. But Flock Safety, they're the leader in roadside LPR, if you will.
The difference between, because we ran an LPR, it's ALPR, we ran it for about 2.5, 3 years, about 12 years ago, okay? And it was a great system. We ran about 100,000 plates through it a season. But the technology is not where this is. That would, my example, if I drove down the street, it would hit every car that it could see down the street. And every street sign. If the guy had, was 999 south, it would run that 999. So I occasionally get hits on things that were not actually vehicles. But this technology has vehicle identification. So as you would got an answer, we can go in there and click. I'm looking for a red Ford pickup with this. I don't know if you put the plate near the actual state that the plate comes from, but you can red Ford pickup with the decal back, and it will pull up everywhere. The other ones don't have that I'm aware of.
They refer to it as a vehicle fingerprint. Yeah. They're really focusing on the vehicle analytics of characteristics and features and damage, toolboxes, bumper stickers, things like that.
Great. I see the value in the technology. I have some concerns about it. Perceived privacy by the public is a concern that I have. I don't know how to deal with that. The finance of it, I'm here to tell respectfully all of you chiefs, respectfully, that having been the longest serving member on the Oceana County Board, if we have to come up with $375,000 a year for the maintenance on this program, we cannot afford it. We will be laying off people in order to do that. We have had the luxury in the last few years of having ARPA funds that we shared with other communities and we used for special projects for us. But $375,000, you may look at a budget and say, well, the size of your budget, you can come up with 375. That's it would be very, very difficult. There will have to be a share. I'm talking about the cost, the ongoing cost, the maintenance fees.
I don't think, maybe I need to clarify, nobody's asking that of the company.
No, but I'm laying it right on the line right now. I want it right up front. Right up front.
I think that's part of the agreement, though.
You're missing the point totally, Undersheriff. Well, I don't want to go into.
I don't think I am.
I don't want to go into something with the expectation that the county can afford it.
I don't think anybody's asking the county to afford it.
You're missing the point. Totally. Totally. When you purchase something, when you look at something, you have to look at what the cost is going to be. Somebody has to look at the cost. Joel, do you understand where I'm coming from, Joel? Do my fellow board members understand where I'm coming from?
If they you get the system up and running.
Sure.
We get relying on it, it's a good service. Now you come to the county next year, 2 years, 3 years later, we need $100,000 to keep this going. You can see that we have to have it, look at the value, there's no way to get around it, we have to have the money. I think that's
That,
what you're
that's where I'm
alluding to.
coming from. The other thing is, the kind of minor things is, probably Chief Rossler and I know better than anybody else, having been in Muskegon County. When you have an interdepartmental agencies agreements on these, which are fine, you know, I'm all for them. You have to have a user policy on them, so the dissemination of the information, Chief Rossler, do you know where I'm coming from on this? It can get really ugly. If somebody picks up something that's going on in another agency's jurisdiction and that information gets disseminated, I would like to, you know, I think you need to consider doing a user policy on it.
So they have already sent us some sample user policies and memorandums of understanding for interagency sharing of information.
I think there's a number of these cameras already in Muskegon.
Yeah, well, without sheriff, or sheriff, it can always be sheriff to me, but Chief Roster can break down a little bit more where I'm coming from on this, and, you know, where this is all coming from. And the other thing that I have is, I believe very, very strongly in a grassroots and local jurisdiction. That's why when I was on the board, when the ORV legislation came in, that the previous board decided to let all of the townships agree themselves on the ORVs, whether they wanted them on the streets and stuff. And if we are going to permanently go with these, I think there needs to be agreement from all of the local jurisdictions, notwithstanding that some of these jurisdictions, the streets and the roads all belong to those jurisdictions where you'll be putting cameras. And I wouldn't even want to see them go up on a test system on any local streets or local roads unless that unit of government knows they're going up and it's a test system of what's going on. Because I assure you, I'm the guy that's going to get the phone calls on what's going on. So, you know, if they're local streets or anything, Chief Hartram, you know, he's already covered. He's got an agreement in Pentwater. But the other jurisdictions, their unit of government needs to understand that, you know, and agree with them going in. Just a passive agreement that, you know, they know what's going on. So again, I see the value of the system, but we need to do our homework.
Just to reiterate, I was in Shelby the night you first presented the program. To this date, I've never heard you ask the county board for any funds. You've only asked the county board to be the fiduciary. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have just one more comment, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
With reference to the bad guys with the drug running and that type of thing, they're just gonna have a map and skirt around these cameras. They're not gonna intentionally drive through a camera when they know you're getting their license plate.
I think we probably might be surprised. That's what people tell me. And again, I don't know what I don't know. Like I said a minute ago,
To give you an example, we put, back when I first came to Pentwater, this was like day 2 of me being there. I found out that they had a grant to put 5 cameras off of the village hall that pointed directly down Main Street and oversaw every bar. And everybody had the same concerns, okay? Up to the point where we had the bank robbed, and the image we got off one of the cameras helped, that allowed us to do it. That allowed us to solve that bank robbery. After that, I can tell you that not one, I have not received one inkling of an issue about cameras. Matter of fact, now virtually every store in downtown Pentwater has cameras on the back, inside, on the front, all over. You know, the privacy thing, you know, I would tell you that if you have a smartphone, you're giving up more of your privacy on that smartphone than these cameras ever thought about. That smartphone, even if you're using, you know, encrypted apps like Proton Mail or Signal or WhatsApp or whatever is the flavor of the day, those are tracking you more than these cameras will. And we're already being tracked. If you go in Muskegon, you're on camera someplace. If you go up to Ludington, you're on cameras. So the privacy issues, I absolutely understand everybody's concern, but I think when you let people know what the reality is, they're probably more upset about their cell phone than they are these cameras. And people do forget. You know, we wear body cameras all the time, and you would think that people would treat you nicely when you get a body camera. And I'm telling you, after the first couple of times, they don't really care if the body camera's on. You get some great video,
Yeah.
but they just forget it.
Well, I'd like to echo what you said, because I said it on day one. If we're gonna sit and talk about the Fourth Amendment and these cameras and everything else, you better leave your watches and your cell phones home. And don't go out of your house, because the reasonable assurance that you would have a privacy issue is done when you go out your front door.
But that is a person with his own personal phone. It's not some third party that's putting it up there that's tracking it.
Maybe. With our cell phones today, there could be third parties going where we
That's not
all
what I
are.
mean. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, we all understand we've got that lack of privacy on our phones.
Yeah,
The only comment I'll offer is to Mr. Walker's point about local control, local concern. I can guarantee you that if this board here decides that this is an effort worth pursuing, I will be taken to my village board before anything goes up in the village. I can 100% guarantee you that's going to happen. If my village board says it's not happening in the village, then it's not happening in the village regardless of what's decided here. So that's not an issue.
no, we see that. And in the beginning, sir, we talked about the forts. You know, I mean, if there's ever gonna be a place to find a car that came in, it would be at the gate and wait until that car comes out. You know, and I understand the trafficking heading north. We've had this forever. This is not anything new to us. And with Lake County and the problems north of us and us being on the, you know, on the heroin highway, they used to call it, I understand. You know, in the fentanyl deaths, we've had one in our family of recent. With the fentanyl deaths on the rise, you know, the need to catch these bad guys is only going to increase. It's worse than I think we realize right now. I understand, but reiterating back again, you've not asked the county to pay for anything. It's not gonna happen without Rothbury wanting it to happen or Hesperia wanting it to happen.
So I can't speak to Rothbury.
I can't either. I live there, but I can't speak for it.
No, but each unit of government has the opportunity to participate if they so choose. I get it, you know, and you know it when you drive to Muskegon. You can't go to Myers without somebody knowing you're there. They know, and these things are the worst. You know, you got your kid tracker, your mommy tracker, you're watching where your wife is all the time. You know, it's.
I think she's watching where I'm at.
I know how you. I feel your pain.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm fuzzing on the costs. So granted, I hear what Mr. Erickson's saying, that this is not a county fee, but I also hear what Mr. Walker's saying. I'll give that. So what is the cost? I see year one, at the end of the trial, $143,700. So, and then annual reoccurring, 118,000.
So it's,
And that's based on 30 cameras.
So it sounds to me like year one, if we move forward with the whole package, is $144,000.
I'm just gonna be honest with you, that's not gonna happen.
Sure, but
So it's three, you have to,
it's just the numbers we have in front of us.
sure,
So,
so 3,000 per camera per
Okay.
year, 150 per camera for installation.
okay,
So that's why the first year is higher, it's that installation
Sure.
cost. And then after that, if the Village of Shelby desires to have a camera or two, then it would be $3,000 per camera.
so then looking at that, so it's so let's just say it's 30 cameras, because
Yep.
those are the numbers we
Sure.
have. It's just shy of $144,000 for year one, reoccurring fees, $118,000. It's not the two together,
Correct,
so.
yes,
okay.
correct.
All right, so with that said, in my mind, if it's a move forward, then the county has to have a contract with each township that opts in, that not just a verbal, not just an agreement with Chief Hartram, but a contract with each entity that says, hey, we'll take the invoice, but you're paying the bill for your cameras. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because otherwise, we're gonna end up in the situation that Mr. Walker's talking about. We're at the end of the year, half our townships have decided they don't wanna pay the bill.
Sure.
Now we're stuck with,
Right.
the bill, it's in our name.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, that opt-in, I like the local opt-in. If the Village of Shelby wants it, I want the Village of Shelby to approve it. They're gonna have to, they're gonna pay the bill, that's
Right.
just the way it works.
Yes, yes.
I'm a guy that's concerned about, I have all the things on my phone. I spent an hour and a half listening to a podcast last week about how to get rid of it, how to have a ghost phone. That interests me. I care about this stuff. I had some pretty harsh words when it came up. My opinion hasn't changed a whole lot. My question about facial recognition, I care about that. I understand there's no perceived standard of privacy when you're in public. I'm also, you guys are all in uniform. I respect every one of you. I dedicate hours of my life on an annual basis to support you. I'm your biggest fans. Maybe not your biggest. Craig's got decades. I've only got hours, but it makes me nervous. I'm glad to hear there's no plan for facial recognition or biometrics of any sort. I also am not naive enough to know it's in the pipeline. If it's not this company, it's somebody else. It's the technology is there. We see it every day when we use our face to open our phone. It's there. I don't know. I'm also not going to be sour at anybody here in uniform presenting this idea, nor any of my fellow commissioners if they approve it. Right now, I'm a big fat I don't know. I'll tell you in a half an hour how I vote. I don't know. I guess I've said my piece. I don't know.
I have one question. With the trial period, who receives all the information? Does that go back to 911 or does that go to individual? I mean, if they have hits, for instance.
Yeah, no,
and
so
the unknowns.
we would set it up, like it would be in real time, like as if we were, doing it, for a year. And so Chief Hartram and Chief Rossler, Chief Salazar, Chief Straight, Chief Watt, whoever wants to participate, if that's what they choose, then everybody would be able to look at that information and look at that data and benefit from it.
So after the trial period, then Chief Salazar, he would look at information and go, man, we had 35 hits that came through on this and those 10 warrants or whatever.
Or we used it to solve this, and this, and, I'm happy to go to a city council meeting with the chief or with any of them and do the same thing in reverse, support their desire to have to have the technology in their community.
Chief, do you think this is something your council would?
I still have to speak to him, obviously, it's still kind of in the preliminary stage. I know I briefly talked with our city manager, and when he gets back from vacation, I know that's something we're gonna continue to talk about, talk to some other different topics and whatnot as well. So, but again, it would be, just like Chief Rosso said, obviously, we probably need to bring it to the council, they'd have to get a resolution to approve it, and then we'd be able to just kind of move on from there. But I believe the 90-day period is gonna be, I think, an eye opener, in reference to how the system's going to work, how it's gonna benefit here.
Under Sheriff, so we go through the 90-day period, you collect the data on it, then they go to the boards, their respective councils are, and then what does SLOC do? They shut everything down until you make a decision, or is there any?
So just thinking out loud, I perceive moving forward, preparing to go to the municipalities, especially the municipalities with law enforcement agencies, the villages, the city, and the township boards as well. But I think I don't think it would be wise to wait until the end of the 90 days and then start that process. I think it'd be wiser to be prepared to do it, somewhere after the 30-day mark, and we can follow up with them after that. But there's some logistics and some timing involved, and I think it would be wise to have that, at least those municipalities that do want to continue to have that opportunity with.
And one other question, have you preliminary locations?
So they, I was a part of that front end conversation. Lieutenant Bosley and their traffic engineers went through. We had an idea as to where we would potentially see value in them, and then they took that really and exploded it. They added several. Obviously, it's your trunk lines, your major intersections.
Well, I guess in Chief Harkin would have the schools, I would have never thought, but that's.
Yeah. So especially your single campuses where there's maybe one way in and one way out, or an ingress and egress, that's easy, for those campuses, they can capture them all. So yeah, schools, your associations out on the lakeshore that may have a single point of entry, another great, and again, if an association wanted to get in on this and fund one for theirs, they certainly can. I was in Detroit a couple of months ago, and I happened to pull into one of these associations because I was looking for a place to make a U-turn, and lo and behold, they had one. They obviously now they stick out to me like a sore thumb because I'm looking for them. But yeah.
Anybody else?
Just a comment. You might want to shut them off the last week in June on the south end of the county. Because you're not going to be able to go in and find the person if they drive in there. Or we could send all of the chiefs in there to try to find the person.
And they're done that.
Yeah.
I would imagine so.
Sounds like you're gonna need a bigger jail.
Again, Sheriff Rossler can relate to that because he's been boots on the ground down there. The different world.
Yes.
Brian, she did say that, once that 90 days was up, that there was a 45-day
window
in there,
Oh,
right?
okay.
To make a
Yes.
decision.
Right.
So that gives you the. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all of the time spent discussing. I appreciate it.
Mr. Walker, discussion pertaining to county participation with outside agencies.
As my fellow board members know, I sit on the West Michigan Community Mental Health Board. I sit on the District 10 Health Board in Cadillac, and I sit on the Oversight Board for mental health for the 10 counties in Holland. And one of the conversations that we have, and I just saw this with the board that Mr. McCormick sits on down in Muskegon, Senior Resources, that none of us know where funding's coming from. You know, there's fears on funding going forward. And nobody's come for the hard funding for their organization yet, but I don't know where it's going. And I want to read a motion that I'd like the board to consider and discuss at this time. It would be to suspend any and all financial contributions to any other unit of government or agency outside of Oceana County government for the remainder of 2025 unless approved in the 2025 budget. Any requests will be discussed during the 2026 budget process. This action will take place because of the program cuts being made outside of the board's control and the uncertainty for 2026. I believe, and I mentioned a month or a month and a half ago, I'm concerned what's going to happen with funding. I hope it doesn't get down to our revenue sharing funding at the state. I haven't seen anything that it's going to be, but I think we're gonna see some trickle down funding coming in different areas. And I believe that this board needs to be proactive and take care of our own responsibilities first, and our county government and our county employees first, and not be involved for the remainder of the year for any funding for outside agencies that haven't been approved already in the budget or other units of government. And with that, I would just like to know your thoughts.
I think it's necessary that we budget for this as we go along rather than taking random requests throughout the year. We've already established a budget, and this would help refine it a little bit when we get to the October budget meeting.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Does this pertain to, there are, just to point out that we still have a couple of projects through ARPA that were funded through ARPA monies?
They have been approved, so they've been funded.
Okay.
They've been funded, so they have been approved.
All right.
Anything that we have approved or budgeted for.
This is just fiscally responsible. This makes, to me, makes perfect sense.
It's all spent. Yeah. Everything's spent.
I have one question. I agree with the sentiment completely. I just wonder if, I guess this is a deterrent to even bring the to spend the time to consider it, but if it shouldn't be, and I can't think of a case where I would be thumbs up for it, but if we haven't had any requests, if it shouldn't just be handled case by case, if the request comes in to just say, no, we're not doing it, or if, I don't know.
Well, I think with the current budget,
right,
we're not going to do it.
Right.
So I think this takes us into October, where we see where we're at financially, and then we can listen to requests.
Personally, I'm not happy with some of the money we have to give some of these entities statutorily, let alone coming asking for extras. But
it is scary. Just take District 10 Health Department and Community Mental Health together.
Right.
How much that costs us a year? $400,000+, just for the two of them.
Yeah.
And we can't do it ourselves. For instance, the health department. If you have your own health department, you have to have a medical doctor for your health department. The 10 counties that we're a part of in District 10 has one medical doctor, Dr. Morris, Jennifer Morris, who handles 10 counties.
In 3 different districts.
In 3 different districts.
Yeah.
Joel, do you have any thoughts on it?
You mentioned senior resources, that meeting, they had a $600,000 cut. And so they're gonna eliminate a couple of programs, cause obviously they don't have the funding for it. The Windsor Dick meeting, Tim was there and they sounded a little hesitant about where their funding was coming. They had, what I heard is they didn't have anything specific, but they didn't have the money either. And they're 80% federal funds, so I think everybody's a little bit on edge on.
Well, and what this will do is it will tell all of those agencies that we can't pick up the slack. We couldn't pick up the $600,000 for one agency, let alone the slack for all of them. And let them know ahead of time that we can't pick up the slack.
$6.
Pardon me?
I said $660,000, $6. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I would be in favor of adding that to the agenda on the regular board meeting.
Well, Mr. Hardy, would you be willing to make that motion?
Yes.
Or would you prefer the chair do it?
I can do that.
Well, let's see where it goes with the vote then. I'm just trying to be physically responsible here, gentlemen. I don't want us to box ourselves into a corner.
What number?
39. Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
You want me to do that now, or do you want to do it at the regular?
No, we'll do it during the general meeting.
Okay. All right, Ms. Biard, Administrator's Review for Selected Claims for Payment and Administrator's Report.
The claims for payment are provided for you in your packet. Are there any questions on those? Okay. Moving on to my administrator's report. We have started the audit process. Somewhat, they sent an initial email to us letting us know that they'll be starting, and we're setting up some timelines and what they'll be requesting from us. So we've started gathering that information. Joel and I have a meeting out at the transfer station tomorrow morning with the vendor that will be installing the scale.
GR Meteorology.
Yeah, they wanted to go over, just do a last minute meeting to go over some things prior to that installation. So we'll be doing that in the morning. We had our first opioid meeting with the steering committee on Monday for 4 hours, and they're starting to put some questions together as it relates to different areas. And then we will get back together once we have all of that information to combine that and see what direction they feel would be best for those funds. And of course, that proposal would come back to the Board of Commissioners prior to any of those funds being spent. So, or suggestions, how they would like, how they feel that they would be best spent. So I'll keep you up to date on that. I wanted to say that I attended the Conservation District dinner last Thursday. Very good dinner, good speakers, good company, nice dinner. And then last, I have provided some information about the animal control truck. And I just wanted to ask if the board would consider a revision to the motion. The truck that we were looking at was sold, and so he did get the information that I provided to you from Ritma Chevrolet, I believe it is. And the cost for that truck is $2,789.55 more than what the other one was. Bob had asked if that was the box was the same, so it would fix, it would fit the box that they had built, and it is the same truck. So, I am just asking if the board would consider revising the motion.
If I may,
Please.
Scott Myers reached out to the local Chevrolet dealers, and he found that one down at Rittmas. And Scott says if he orders one, he can't get it till July.
Yes.
And what was original, that was a budgeted item that we'd already approved in the budget, correct?
50K.
Yes, but we put $50,000 in that line item, prior to this motion, so that we knew that we would have the funds available.
So we're still within our budgeted
Correct.
plan.
Yeah. You wanna add that,
Are we in a rush?
The truck is on the lot.
yeah, and the
No,
last one.
Are we in a
approved.
rush? We awarded the bid to Myers. Are we in a rush?
That was for 2024, and he cannot get another 2024. It's gonna be a 25, and it's gonna be more money.
I guess to answer the question, we might be, depending on whether the 25% tariffs go ahead on vehicles.
Well, and I don't, if it's a 2025 truck, I don't know if the box is gonna fit.
The Chevy hasn't changed their sizes on the boxes. I think we go ahead and get it.
You wanna do that right now? You want us to amend that motion by vote, or do you wanna add it during the regular meeting?
We'll do it in the regular meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
And that original motion was 2025-16.
Yes, that is
We'll just-
the very last, page on that.
We'll just amend that motion to reflect the current cost.
Yeah.
Tracy, is that?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay. All right, okay, department head reports. Gary.
I have one comment, and that is, at the last planning commission meeting, our guest speaker was Scott Orville, who is the head of the Silver Lake Sand Dunes, Program, the Visitors Bureau. And he told us that they had about 2 million visitors come to Oceana County during the summer. Plate reader would probably be really a good idea. I also will tell you, the Muskegon Visitors Bureau has plate readers all through Muskegon. And being on the submarine board, once a year we get an update from that group. And we knew that there were 33,333 visitors that came to the submarine museum. How do we know that? Because they read the plates. They know what restaurants they go to, and they know what museums they go to. Driving into Muskegon, there's no escaping it. So it's really interesting. And we asked Scott, would they put some type of a program out like that for our county? And he said that was not one of their plans. So just FYI.